for you becoming a GM? I mean, assistant GM at first with Jerry West for those 7 years, which Jerry West, to me, he's just a qualified genius is who he is. When the Lakers lost him, there's a couple people when the Lakers lost that I was concerned. One of them was him. The other one was Kupchak. I don't know why. I kind of like Kupchak's style, and I also like Jerry's style. What was it like working with Jerry for those 7 years at Memphis Grizzlies?
Yeah, the path in was through Vancouver, right? We bought the Vancouver Grizzlies, and then we moved them to Memphis. So there were 2 years without Jerry, and then 5 with Jerry. Jerry then came into Memphis as the president of basketball, and it was amazing. I mean, at that time, Patrick, you play that game where you're like, who would you want to have lunch with? If there was anybody you could have lunch with, and people would say Oprah, or lately, you'd say Obama, whatever it would be. In my window there, my answer was Jerry West, because I wanted to learn something that was relevant to what I wanted to do. Well, all of a sudden, his office was like 4 feet from mine, and his door is always open, and he was an open book, right? He just would allow and ask for help, and we worked very closely together with a team of people, and it was just unbelievable, quite the experience, and a lot of fun to work with. He had true stardust sprinkled on him still at that age. What was interesting with Jerry was to see grown men in their 60s just like fangirl out on him when they'd see him at a restaurant, because they had seen him for 40 or 50 years. They had this familiarity with him as he's one of those rare athletes that transformed himself into being just as successful in the second phase in a different way, right? So I never knew him as a player. I just knew him as this iconic executive, sort of what you're reacting to. But Jerry is a special person, totally unique, and was a lot of fun working with him.
What was his recruiting style? I mean, there's different ways guys recruit. I've kind of watched him closely to see how he recruited. I watched how Kupchak recruited Dwight Howard. He brought him in, took him in one of the rooms. He says, look at the rafters. Look who's up there, the big man. Kareem, Wilt, Shaq. One day it's going to say Howard there. And then, you kind of saw that didn't work out with Howard's personality, because he didn't want that kind of pressure to be compared to the shadows of the guys. What was Jerry's style of recruiting?
Well, we were recruiting a different caliber of athlete. We were doing a build from, one of the worst teams in the league. So in a way, it was drafting talent and then retaining talent, and then getting guys just getting talent at any level. But it wasn't those kinds of superstars where you're recruiting. It was more, let's get this guy to come. Let's identify, let's trade for him. A lot of those conversations happened very directly with agents. So that was where it was I mentioned Arn Tellem as an example. So Arn was a very close friend of Jerry's. Arn represented Kobe Bryant and a number of the other key acquisitions through the years for the Lakers. And I was surprised at just how close they were personally. I always envisioned that'd be more of a contentious relationship, and we hate agents and this and that. But what I learned from Jerry was just the importance of deep, long-standing relationships with the power agents, because so many of those guys control so much of the talent, and they can really help fulfill what you're trying to accomplish. So that was part of the art, part of the science of what you'd call recruiting or talent procurement in the NBA.
So he was a relationship salesman. So he sold through having strong relationships with agents, because if he got the agents, he got the players. So is half the battle of recruiting players and having a good relationship with players through the agent? How much of it is the agent? How much of it is the family? How much of it is the wife? How much of it is the parents? How much of it is the player? Or does it vary player by player?
Well, it's changed. It was a little more agent driven back then. And in the modern era, I think it's a little more peer and player to player driven. So you see more and more the way that LeBron as a player, combined with Maverick Carter and his agency that LeBron is an owner of, they're able to assemble the current Lakers roster in a way where they're doing a lot of the maneuvering and the manipulating and the straight up recruiting. the straight up recruiting is technically illegal if it comes from any member of an other team. That's tampering. You can't tamper with current players on other rosters. Well, a loophole in that has been player to player, where the players, we can't restrict what they do or say to each other. So over the last 10 years or so, that's really taken form. Even going back to Pat Riley was the last one in Miami to really assemble the big three down there with a true recruiting focus. He went in and sold them and pitched them. He had Wade, but he had to get Wade to recommit. And then he got LeBron and Bosh to join. But the other secret of that success was he got them all to take like $5 million less than they should have taken.
That's right. 18 million, 19 million, 16 million. I don't remember the number. And I think even Bosh was getting the most money out of the three.
Right. So they all took a haircut of $5 million. That freed up $15 million a year to go get the next three, the Mike Millers of the world, the way they
Chalmers, yeah.
roster out, and really gave them the finals championship caliber every year. So, but now it's much more, James Harden goes to be with Durant and goes to be with Kyrie because there's direct conversations happening as part of that whole exchange. When Chris Paul moves or maneuvers, he's talking direct with whoever he's going to be playing with. And of course, LeBron bringing Anthony Davis, represented by that same group, that was the core, the key to transitioning the Lakers from worst to first.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.